Hi guys, Ethys here. As some of you already know, I was fortunate enough to attend the official Stormblood media tour in San Francisco just a few weeks ago and sit down with Final Fantasy XIV director and producer Naoki Yoshida alongside Final Fantasy XIV subreddit founder Risuf, aka Zeno. We each had a chance to ask a handful of questions, and if you want to see Risuf's side of the interview, you can head to the subreddit or check the description below for a link. As for myself, I'm going to discuss here the questions I asked and elaborate on the answers received in reference to the transcript, which you can also read through at your own leisure. I had a few priorities going into the interview. To clarify on some of the features and details of what we had already seen at the media event and during our hands-on with the Stormblood test build, to see if I could squeeze Yoshida for some lore details, and finally to discuss the status and representation of the Australian, New Zealand, and Oceania player base, which was the focus of my first question. I've long observed myself and discussed with many Oceanic players that although they're a not insignificant portion of the player base, they're generally overlooked when it comes to seeing Final Fantasy XIV represented at regional events like PAX Australia. They haven't been able to participate in promotional campaigns, such as those offered to other regions in conjunction with Amazon or 7-Eleven. They have no regional community reps or game support, and usually have to subscribe to a VPN service in order to connect reliably to even the closest servers. Loath as I am to make the comparison, both Blizzard and Riot have a number of Australian servers, and this leads many people to wonder why Square Enix doesn't. It seems that Yoshida is equally loath to make the comparison. He told me that he would love to attend events in the Oceania region, schedule permitting, but he's painfully aware of the inexorable questions regarding an Australian data center and isn't sure what Square Enix PR expects him to tell us. So it seems that although Yoshida's team has expressed a desire to reach out to the region in terms of events, there still are, unfortunately, no plans on the drawing board to launch an Oceanic data center. Yoshida did recall visiting Australia once in, I believe, late 2013. He tried connecting to the Japanese data center without a VPN and infamously attempted to dodge a Titan landslide. If you don't know already, I'm sure you can guess how that went. Now, having spent some time experimenting with the jobs at level 70, I'd noticed that although the job-specific UI elements were a great feature in combat, whilst exploring the world they could sometimes feel a little obtrusive and cluttering. We already know that we could move and resize these elements, but I asked Yoshida whether any considerations were being made to further customize this feature and perhaps have it automatically hidden whilst out of combat. Yoshida answered that he personally preferred being able to see it at all times, but that other members of the team felt the same way I did, and so they want to base future adjustments on player feedback. That said, I did notice during the more recent live letter 36 that Yoshida's job UI was partially transparent when he was out of combat, which I do not recall being a feature of the build we played in San Francisco, so it seems this may be something they're already well on top of. Yoshida did also make the point that many aspects of these UI elements, such as the timers, etc., are things that will still be represented with timers on the status bar, and such as many players are already used to, and that some might prefer to keep tracking these over using the new job UI at all. Next, I asked about the sightseeing log and the Moogle post quests, two precedents for pieces of content that engage and reward fans of lore and story, and whether we will see more of these or other side quests like them in Stormblood. Yoshida revealed that there will be 45 new sightseeing log locations added with 4.0, and that a number of these will be within Kugane itself. I expect these alone to tell us far more than we currently know about the history and cultures of Othard, and so you can expect some thorough coverage of them from me in the future. Yoshida also told me that the person developing the sightseeing log content is also hoping to add a hard mode version in 4.x, although precisely how you would make these hard mode is anyone's guess. As for the Moogle post, many more have already been written in Japanese, but the English localization is a little bit behind, and so they will continue to be released little by little. Some of you might want to put them well behind you now that we've concluded the Dragon Song War, but my next question was about dragons. Following the alliance made between the New Republic of Ishgard and the Children of Hraesvelgr, particularly Vidofni and Vretofolnir, I've been hoping that they might agree to assist in the war against Garlemald, particularly given the Empire's increasing interest in the neurolinking technology of the Allagans that allow them to enslave the dragons of Mericidia. However, we haven't seen any dragons in the Revolutions trailer or in any other Bloodstorm preview media so far. While Yoshida agrees that a heavy investment in certain kinds of Allagan knowledge by the Garleans would probably spur some dragons to action, we're not yet at that point, and the Brood of Hraesvelgr does not see Garlemald as much of a real threat to them. It seems, from the way Yoshida tells it, that a draconic intervention may be on the cards in the future, but that it won't likely be anytime soon. As most of you probably know by now, a kind of jump potion called Tales of Adventure will be introduced with Stormblood Early Access, with options both for boosting a single job per account to level 60 and for skipping the main scenario quest up to 2.55 or 3.56. As part of this, we've been told that certain side quests which are required to unlock dungeons and other instant content will be marked as complete. Given the reason cited for the lack of Hildebrand trials in 3.x was that they would require people to complete 2.x Hildebrand and that the preconditions might therefore be a little much, I asked Yoshida whether the Tales of Adventure would mark the old Hildebrand quests as complete, given that they involve trials like Big Bridge and Big Keep, and that this might nullify the aforementioned preconditions and allow the dev team to add more trials to future episodes of Hildebrand. But it seems that the Hildebrand trials are not among the list of those that Yoshida wanted to be readily accessed by people using the Tales of Adventure, and that they would not be among those automatically marked as complete. Yoshida said that he very much encouraged new players to experience the Hildebrand story for themselves, that he did after all fly eastward at the end of 3.x, and that his reappearance will as always depend on player demand. From here I decided to see if I could squeeze some lore details out of Yoshida. Whilst earlier exploring Kugane, I passed through a district of the town which was home to both Galean and Thavnarian consulates. There is another building here, however, unmarked and with a solitary brass blade standing outside. Inside, I found an empty lobby with the Uldar coat of arms prominently displayed, and down on the nearby docks were a large number of NPCs wearing the typical garb of Uldar merchants, mixed in with the native Kugane dock workers that appear elsewhere in the city. My first suspicion was that I had discovered a branch of Lolorito's East Aldenard Trading Company, and so I asked the producer directly. He seemed surprised that I had combed the city so thoroughly, and although he did not directly confirm my guess, he did elaborate that as the only open port town of an otherwise closed nation, Kugane has representatives and ambassadors from many other nations and regions, and that the potential clashing of these, particularly with the Galean consulate, will be explored through the main scenario. Finally, I decided to settle the speculations that the upcoming 24-man raid series titled Return to Ivalice might, as many people have wondered, literally take place on Ivalice as another shard of Hydaelyn. I have personally been of the opinion that since there are cities in Othard currently shrouded in fog on our world map named Dalmasca and Rabanasta, names which should be familiar to players of Final Fantasy XII or Tactics, the Ivalice of Return to Ivalice probably refers to a collection of city-states in Othard in the same way that Eorzea refers to a collection of states in and around Aldenard. So I asked Yoshida directly whether there was a connection between Dalmasca in Othard, conquered by the Galean Empire nearly 60 years ago, and Return to Ivalice. His answer was that there was no way they couldn't be connected, or almost no way, and that it would be safe to assume that Return to Ivalice is a title made in reference to the Dalmasca of Hydaelyn and not of some other world. And those were all the questions I had the opportunity to ask. I avoided the nitty-gritty about job actions and new content, given that so many of those questions were already answered with our hands on time with Stormblood, and will in any case be covered by other YouTubers and media outlets. I wanted to ask questions that probably wouldn't have occurred to other media and influencers at the event, and I think that for the most part I managed to do just that. Either way, this was a fantastic experience for me, and hopefully the first of many interview opportunities I get with the development team of Final Fantasy XIV. So I hope you found it illuminating and entertaining. I encourage you to keep an eye on the rest of the channel in the coming days for a bunch more content covering this event and exclusive Stormblood previews. So do please subscribe if you don't want to miss any of that. Feel free to leave any thoughts or follow-up questions regarding this interview in the comments below. But for now, I'm Ethys, and thank you so much for watching.